Hey guys, today we're going to be building a computer from scratch. Just to speed up the film process, I've already put in the 3 front intake fans bringing cool air in, and I've already installed the power unit just to save a little bit of time. And for the rest of the video, instead of seeing me, I'll be showing you the computer and then maybe do a little voiceover in post editing. Alright, well, let's get to it. Hey guys, first things we need to do to prep this board is we have to move these 4 screws, but you keep the back plate on because we're going to use the back plate to attach it. Okay, the next step, this is installing the CPU. My CPU, as you can see, if you can, I guess not, is Ryzen 5 3600X. I'm looking here, there's a little teeny triangle in the corner, and I see a point here, so I know it drops in. You just let gravity do its thing. Get it straightened up so you don't bend any pins. It drops straight in. Once it's in nice and flush, you lock it in. CPU is now in. Next thing I like to do is using isopropyl alcohol 99%, 99.9, and a lint-free cloth to just lightly make sure it's nice and clean. The alcohol evaporates really quickly, so it's safe to use. Alright. The next step to this, after you put in the CPU, is to apply thermal paste and apply the CPU cooler. For this, I'm using a Cryonaut Thermal Grizzly. I think it's really good to use, but you can use even some Arctic Silver or MX4, whatever you choose, but just make sure you have thermal paste. Way I always do it, everybody has different preference, but I start out with a small grain of rice. Now that's good enough, but I like to use a plastic spreader and to spread this all out nice and evenly. Okay, now that I got a good cover of thermal paste, you need to decide how you want to clock your fan. Your fan can either go in like this or the other way, but due to where the AMD sticks out, I don't want it near my RAM cards to make more space. So I'm going to install mine like so. It only has 2 options, so can't do much other than that with it. Alright, let's zoom out a little bit there. Now let's get this screwed down. The 4 screws that we did from the mounts, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We'll get that taken care of. Okay, we got the CPU cooler fastened down. Let me zoom in here a little bit. I'm going to show you your CPU plugs right in here. It's actually labeled CPU fan, and that's where your CPU fan cooler plugs in. Now the next step is we're going to be installing this Corsair Vengeance LPX 8GB DDR4. I'm going to be putting it in here. It looks like it's labeled in A2 and B2 for dual channel. Just line up the groove with the slot. If I can see without the camera. Can push it right in. Same way with the other one. Put it straight in. Line it up. Alright. Got both of the channels in. Like I said, that's 2 18 gigs, so total 16 gig. It's dual channel, and I'm doing it in A2, B2. I'll have everything out on the table. I always like to put in my RAM, put in my CPU and cooler, and also since I'm installing today, I got something fancy here. I got this PCIe 4.0 Gen 4 M2, which is a terabyte. We'll go ahead and get that installed now. Okay guys, now we got the M.2 installed, the SSD. All it does is slide in. There's actually a groove. You can see it and goes in one way. This has a nifty heat shield that goes on top. It came with the motherboard. So it has a sticker that you peel off the back so you can see your thermal pad there. And that just gets installed right down on top of and screwed down. Alright, now just to recap. We got the CPU in, we got the thermal paste on, got the CPU cooler in. We plugged it in the CPU and the CPU 1 jack up here. Got the two 8 gig SD RAM DDR4s installed and installed the M2 Gen 4 SSD. And now I think we're prepped with about everything we need to on the motherboard outside. I'm going to go ahead and pause it, get up the case, which I've already installed the power unit and the front 3 intake fans. And that was just to speed up this process a little bit. Well, I'm going to pause it and we'll get up the case. Okay guys, as you see, I got my front 3 Arctic intake fans in. And I also got my Corsair 550 to TX 550M installed, which is my my power unit, my PSU. And then I installed all 9 of the standoffs where they need to be for the motherboard. Now I know it looks a little dusty in here. That's because I've used this this case or this tower before. But let me get this motherboard here and see if I can get her set up. Whenever you're carrying your motherboard, you always try to hold it by the sides. Okay, it looks like I am lined up perfectly for all of my standoffs. Everything's good. I'm going to go ahead and get where I show you where the 9 standoffs are and get the motherboard secured. And then we'll be back. Okay guys, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get some power to this motherboard. First we're going to get our 20+4 plugged in here. And then I also have the CPU power, which on this model is actually an 8, and it's up here in the corner if you can see where I'm pointing there. We're going to get them 2 plugged in, and then at least for the power side, the motherboard and CPU will be powered up. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done, and then we'll get the case laid back down, and you'll see where that is. But that's just running from the cables. I have a modular power unit, so I'll get them plugged in and get them ran for that. Okay, now that I'm back, as you can see, I got off the PSU to power supply in powering the board there. And I got us plugged in up top. I also did an exhaust fan up top while I was at it. That's blowing outward. Right now I have 3 fans blowing in, 1 fan blowing out. I need to get at least 1 more blowing out the back here. And now I guess what's next is I'll go ahead and I'm going to plug in these fans. And all these fans, let's see if I can zoom in to show you. On the board itself, they're all labeled SysFan 2, there's SysFan 1, they're all along the sides here on the board. There's SysFan 3. So I'm going to go ahead and do all the fans around, and then I'll be back again. Okay guys, now the hardest part I think of the whole project is wiring up the case, and everything is labeled. And if you just turn to your manual for your motherboard, it'll tell you exactly where to wire it and how to wire it. As you see, it says that JFP1 right here. And also right here on the board, take my word for it, it says JFP1, and it shows you the orientation to wire them. So I'm going to go ahead and get that wired. And as I see where I left off before, if you look, you can see I have wired up all the fans all the way around. Currently we have 2 fans that are exhaust, and then I have 3 fans that are coming in. So the core will come in and go and as it rises, it goes out the top and the back, and then also the core there. I have extra fans. I may add more later, but that's where we're at now. I'm going to go ahead and get the case wired up with all the USBs, which are all labeled. All these are labeled here around the bottom, telling you USB 1, USB 2. This is USB 3.2, I believe. Just everything from the front of the case. Okay guys, due to time, I went ahead and I installed my Bluetooth and Wi-Fi 6 card down there on the PCIe. I went ahead and got my graphics card installed, got everything plugged in. Now the only thing I need to do is turn it over to the other side so I can get my two SSDs mounted. Okay guys, well, I got to clean up my wires a little bit more, but I got the two SSDs down in there. I got a terabyte and a 500 gigabyte. Got everything wired up on this side. I just got to put this side plate on. As you can see from the back side here, if I can keep the shadow out of all this, let's turn out this one bulb here. Maybe that'll work. But I got everything wired up, everything installed. I do got to put one plate in here because I'm reusing the same case and I don't have a shield for that right now. But everything's in on that side. And I did go ahead and get the two PCIe power cords on my graphics card. Everything at the current time is completely installed. The only thing I gotta do, like I said, is put on my glass and put on my side panel and plug in my power cable, of course my monitor by HDMI, and my USB for the mouse. Well, and my speakers too, but once I get these covers on, we'll go ahead and get it fired up and see where we're at.